Just go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Tea Talk Thursday. I told you guys that if I'm not here at noon, I would be here at 7:30. And today I have some of my very favorite guests. So I need you guys to come on in, grab your drink, get ready, and be a part of this very important conversation. And it's not just important because we are cancer patient advocates. It is important for you to advocate for yourself when you're going through whatever you're going through with your doctors. You guys know how I'm always like, make sure you make a yearly appointment. Make sure you get the mammogram, get those boobs squeezed. We want to make sure that you're getting everything checked. So this conversation is really going to help you in kind of navigating that and some questions and things you should ask. And luckily, we're going to give you some things that wasn't afforded to us as we were in the beginning of our journey. So for those of you who do not know, my name is Tamika. I am the mouth of IG at Tamika Talks, and I'm the thought leader at Life and Pumps, where I bring you entertainment, lifestyle, all that kind of good stuff. But you guys know how near and dear cancer and advocating is to my heart. And so I am so excited for you guys to meet my guests. So I will have them introduce themselves. Wenora, will you go first?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tamika, for that. My name is Wenora. I am from the Chicagoland area. I'm also a 3-time cancer survivor, my first cancer being colorectal, endometrial, and basal cell carcinoma. After genetic testing, it was confirmed that I was also a Lynch syndrome patient. I'm also a Navy veteran, a passionate cancer advocate who's actively involved with various organizations who promote changing guidelines, policies, and knowledge about living with cancer and cancer survivorship.
Wonderful. Kimberly, you're up next.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Kimberly Richardson. I'm also from Chicago, Illinois. And I like to say I'm a 2.5 times cancer survivor because my first diagnosis was in 2013, where I was diagnosed with stage 3A ovarian granulosa cell tumor cancer. My second is my half, which was for thyroid cancer. That's largely because the NCCN guidelines changed the diagnosis from malignant to benign. Had I caught it a year or two earlier, it would have been malignant. And now I am currently in treatment for triple positive breast cancer. And that's a very early stage. So thank goodness for that. I'm a fierce patient advocate. Largely, my niche is research advocacy, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that throughout the talk.
Absolutely. All right, Sharon, you're up.
Hi, my name is Sharon Rivera-Sanchez. I'm in the Richmond, Virginia area. I am going on 6 years as a survivor of triple negative breast cancer, and I'm also a thriver. I'm an advocate as well, and I like to be a voice for the voiceless. I love giving back to the patient, love giving back to my community. I serve on several boards, several committees, national, local, and global, and we are here tonight to educate you.
All right, guys. So you heard that. Listen, I keep telling y'all, I know some badass dicks. Look at that. Listen. And this ain't it. It's a whole bunch more that's going to be coming at some point. So stay tuned. But I'm so excited that you all are here. As always, guests, you have questions, please post them in the comments. We will read them and acknowledge them as we're going on. So it looks like we have one comment here where Alonda is saying that she just had to have a frank talk with her OBGYN because they never discussed the follow-up on her ultrasound. Yeah, so those are the type of things that happen. And unfortunately, they seem to be happening more and more in our community. And that's why these type of talks are so important. So to those of you who are joining, hello. We are from a little bit of everywhere. I'm from the Philadelphia area. I don't know if I said that, but you guys probably know that anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the question and the first topic of tonight is, what did you wish your doctor had told you in the beginning of this process? Whoever wants to go first, jump on in.
I'll jump in.
Okay, go for it.
Erin here in Richmond. I honestly wish my doctor would have told me, or we would have discussed mental health issues. With a cancer diagnosis and going through treatment, emotions are all over the place. I had an incident that was so out of character. I knew nothing about PTSD, but that is real in the cancer community. Even today, where I receive chemo from, we have several satellite offices, and I can go to any of those offices. But when it comes to that particular office, I bypass it. I try not to go up the steps in the chemo area. That is part of PTSD. Not only PTSD, you'll have depression, just different things. Your emotions is all over the place when it comes to a cancer diagnosis. So I honestly wish we would have discussed that a little bit more.
Absolutely. And so what I think, guys, what I want everybody to just understand is just hearing those 3 words, you have cancer, is emotionally draining and challenging in itself. And then, you're faced with this diagnosis, and now they're like, well, here's what's going to happen in treatment. But no one really talks to you about mentally what's going to happen as you're going through treatment, when it's done, scanxiety. We all know how real that is. So that is an absolutely great point. And hopefully, doctors will start to take note. Not sure how soon that will be, but let's hope they do. Now, do you guys want to comment on that, or do you want to just give your answer?
Well, I'm just hoping that, at some point that all physicians will connect to palliative services and better supportive services. They are there in those hospitals. And I think that because they are working all day and really don't know about the other side of who does what in the hospital, that they sort of just leave you hanging. And so it's going to be imperative upon you, unfortunately, to find out where are the supportive services in my hospital. Demand from your physician, I need to know about palliative services and support services. It is not end of life. It is at diagnosis that you can get palliative service.
So I'm glad you said that, because I was having a conversation with someone this week about that. And what I realize is oftentimes patients don't realize that palliative care does not mean you're about to die. And so I think that also is where the hiccup comes, because I mentioned to them, I said, there is a palliative care team at your hospital. And her eyes got real big. And I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, well, I don't know that I want to call them. I was like, why not? That's what they're for. And so then we went through the steps. And then at that point, she realized, I said, you're thinking of hospice, which is a totally different thing. I said, and the other thing you should know is oftentimes hospice isn't about you going there to die. Sometimes it is a point as they're trying to figure out what the next step is. No one wants you to die. Like, no one wants to put you somewhere and have you die. But palliative care is there, and we need to utilize it. So if you are a caregiver or you're doing anything at the hospital, it doesn't even matter what it is, you should definitely find out what is involved in palliative care. Wenora, do you have a comment?
Absolutely. I was just going to piggyback on that by saying that it may be hard for you to speak up, but that's why we're all here telling our story, because believe it or not, I've been going to my oncologist center now for 10 years, just because I am a Lynch syndrome patient. And it wasn't until last year that I even found out that there was a nurse navigator there, let alone someone who could have, told me about seeking maybe psychological treatment or something like that. So I encourage you to ask, because if you don't, they're going to right on to the next patient.
Absolutely. And oftentimes that's part of the reason why we feel like just a number, because they give us that small block of time and they move on to the next patient. But I'm glad that you mentioned nurse navigator. So many people are surprised when I share with them that I never had a nurse navigator. Let me not say I didn't have one. Let me walk that back some. What happened is I had a nurse navigator because I switched hospitals, and she was the first point of contact when I switched hospitals. However, after I talked to her that first time, I never heard from her again. And I did not realize how integral she is supposed to be to the process until I was done and I was helping other patients. And someone was like, oh, you sound like a nurse navigator. And I was like, well, what is that? So that's another thing that you guys need to know about, a nurse navigator. They are at the hospitals, and they usually have all of the information on like the social services you can get, cleaning companies, taxi cab rides, all of those type of things. And it's unfortunate that your doctor is not connecting you to your nurse navigator and making certain that you all check in, because oftentimes they are active in emotional support, which is why I was kind of like, well, why didn't she reach out to me? I was feeling a little sad about that, but neither here nor there. All right, Kimberly. So what do you wish your doctor had told you at this point?
Oh, goodness. Well, to tell a brief bit about my story, I had been told that I had an ovarian cyst. And everybody was across the board, thumbs up. This is a cyst. As a matter of fact, you can go and run one of your races the night before my surgery. I ran a 10K race thinking that it was an ovarian cyst because I was not in pain, had no risk factors, no symptoms. We caught it because I was experiencing a lot of fatigue. I was actually diagnosed on the table. The gynecology was called in to complete the surgery. And thank God for that, right? Because I'm still here. However, I was asked to sign a full agreement that said, if we find cancer, we're going to take a full hysterectomy. When I woke up, all that was taken was my fallopian tubes and my ovaries. No one had a discussion with me about this. Not the gynecological surgeon who started the surgery, not the gynecologue who completed the surgery. And I only found out about it when I went for a second opinion for the treatment. A fellow at the second hospital read it off of a computer as he was reading my report. And it said, I quote, patient wanted to keep her uterus. Now, at the time, I was 50 years old and I was postmenopausal. I wasn't married to my uterus.
Right? It could go.
It was a wrap. And so I was a little confused about all of that, right? But again, I am dealing with what I thought was a life-threatening cancer diagnosis. Do I put all of my energy into my treatment? Do I put all my energy into suing the hospital and going, and and all this? And I was just, at the time, if I had to boil it down, what do I want you to know? What did I want to know? I wanted to know the truth. I just wanted to know the truth.
Something so simple.
Something so simple. When I woke up, instead of tapping me on my shoulder and saying, sorry, Kim, it turned out to be cancer. We'll talk to you when you wake up. And to have to wait 3 weeks later for him to look at his shoes for 5 minutes because he couldn't bear to look me in my face. I was like, so what happened? How did I go from a cyst to cancer? And why didn't a full hysterectomy happen? Of course, those questions were asked. I didn't get answers.
Wow.
So
that is crazy.
Yeah, and of course, everyone would listen to that and say, you need to be suing that. You need to own that hospital by now. But
what's the name of that joint?
Exactly. I don't want to go there. But again, 8 years later, there's something about her skill level that I'm still here as an ovarian cancer survivor.
Absolutely. Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and as I moved through research advocacy as a patient advocate, I actually learned something about why uteruses, I hope that's the way you say it, uteri, I don't know, are kept in place for postmenopausal women. They actually shorten your lifespan when the uterus is taken. So, I kind of sort of walked back from that lawsuit. I was like, all right then. Okay then. So it was a little bit like that for me, right? Initially I was pissed, but then I went, I had a pretty skilled surgeon. So just tell me the truth.
And sometimes we have to count our blessings in the mess. We gotta find the blessing in the mess, so that way we're not focused on just the mess. So I'm glad that you are still here, that she was skilled, she had some skilled hands, and who knew that we needed our uterus after we weren't done having babies.
Okay, it's good for some.
Absolutely. Okay, Wenora. Oh, wait. So here, we have some questions. Let me see. Oh, so listen. So we have someone who is also a survivor. Sharonda is saying that she did not know that, and she was upset that they did not remove her uterus as well. So look at that. And so I have to wonder, why aren't doctors just saying, here's the reason why we aren't doing it? Like, what do they think we're afraid of? Why is it always so secretive? And then we have to find the answers and bring it to them. Like, enough is enough.
Like, why put in my notes that I wanted it? Like, it was like I wanted a pet.
Right.
Like,
exactly. Like, we clear her to get this cat. She's a good person. Like, come on, stop it. So someone wants to know if you were at Northwestern, if you'd like.
I ain't telling. I
knew that was probably the case, but I said I needed to ask.
Then the tape resurfaces. I ain't falling for it.
That's right, because you know what happens here does not stay here, just so you know. All right, Wenora, what's your answer?
Well, let me tell you, this little thing here.
Okay, show them.
This little thing here, it's about 12 pages long, but let me tell you, it saved my life. But it didn't save my life immediately, because this is what I wish my oncologist would have referred to me in the very beginning, not after I completed the standard care treatment for colorectal cancer. It was 4 years later, and I'm glad she was persistent in asking me to take this genetic test, because it predicted that I would have a 60 to 80% chance of endometrial cancer. And like Kimberly was talking about, I was like, okay, well, I want to be preventive. I don't want my uterus, give me a full hysterectomy or whatever. And the thing of it is, cancer was already there. So maybe that genetic test would have played a more important part first, had they given me that genetic test first and not 4 years later, because I was overconfident that I would have no more cancers. And now I realize that not only have I had 2 additional cancers, that there's probably more in my future. So I'm happy about it, but I wish I had known about it beforehand.
That is a great point. So let's go back. So first, I would like for you to tell everybody about the 3 times, because gosh, she is a 3-time survivor. I need y'all to understand that. Like, not just, and I don't want to say not just breast cancer, because shit, it's hard, but not, 3, y'all, 3, 1, 2, 3, count them, y'all, count them. So I need you to tell everybody what these cancers are, kind of what the treatment involved. Give us all the full deets, because we need to focus on you right now. Go.
Well, of course, colorectal cancer is exactly what it is. It's cancer of the colon. And the unfortunate part about that, especially for us Black women and men, is not caught ahead of time. It's always usually late stage cancer when it's caught. And I thought I was relatively healthy. And apparently I wasn't using the bathroom right, but didn't know it at the time, because that's usually the first clue. So after, of course, being tested and having surgery, I thought I was cancer free until I did that genetic test. And then I had endometrial cancer. Now, believe me, when I read the biopsy report this time, because now I'm really actively involved in my healthcare, and I'm reading line for line, and I'm seeing TP53, I'm seeing FICO3, and I'm like, this is aggressive, and the biopsy person is saying, I'm going to call the doctor immediately. I'm doing research. I'm looking up clinical trials at this point. Like, what's out there? What's going on? And I'm going to be honest, what I saw was scary, talking about putting beads up inside of you, radiation beads and things. And I was like, Lord, please don't let me have to go through something like that. And I'm very thankful that I didn't have to. When it's endometrial cancer stage 1A, they only remove all of the surrounding, bodily things that we women have. So after that, of course, came the basal cell carcinoma. What started out as a little pimple turned out to be 2 inches removed from my backside. And I'm thinking, I'm Black. How can I get skin cancer? Didn't matter. I was a Lynch syndrome person. So from now on, I'm on the lookout for any little thing that looks weird on my body. I feel weird or anything. I'm knocking at my ologist door, dermatologist, cardiologist.
I know that's right.
It is. I'm knocking on their door.
Yes, I love that. I love that, guys. Y'all heard that, right? Get you an ologist, all of them, every last one of them, because this is what needs to happen. And, you know, there's so many things out there that we're all like, oh, Black people don't get that. No, Black people get everything. Stop thinking that we are immune. We are not. Get you some allergists and be okay. So wait, I want to go back here because Nat is saying that you just convinced her to pay for this. I'm assuming you mean the genetic counseling. Here's what I want you to do, right? There are so many studies going on behind genetic testing.
Yeah.
So before you do it, I want you to call your doctor and I want you to ask them how you can get a genetic test done for free, because you should not have to pay for it. At the point when I got mine, and how I got mine, because my doctor never asked me, I participated in a clinical trial. You know, I'm a science geek, so they love seeing me come in the hospital because they could be like, hey, will you stand on one foot so we can see what the earth does? Sure, let me do it. That's who I am. So when they came to me about the genetic testing, that's how I did it. And I was like, yeah. And so in the process, I'm like, well, why isn't this just standard of care? Because as a mother, a sister, a daughter, I was the first one to get it. So I'm kind of like, well, I need to make sure my daughter's going to be okay. I have a son. I need to, so if my mom needs to be worried, or my sisters. And so what she explained to me was the cost problem, you know, where there's 3 tests that they do. And if the first one comes back negative, or positive, you know, they're worried about false positives and all that type of thing. And so right after I had mine done as a part of the study, I know insurance started paying for it. And so, but then I learned that not all insurances pay for it. So totally reach out to your hospital, your doctor, whomever, before you pay for that. Because I promise you, somebody somewhere is doing a study and they just need to get information so that you can get in this and get it for free. So,
and Tamika,
right.
I'd like to add my experience with genetic testing.
Okay.
Because in 2013, I didn't have it after my ovarian cancer. It wasn't offered to me. Nobody spoke to me about it. I got into patient advocacy. I was hearing women talk about their genetic tests, and conversations were going back and forth. And I was like, well, ain't nobody said nothing to me about no genetic test. So I'm like, all right, that's okay, I guess. But given the time frame, in 2012 is when NCCN guidelines said genetic testing needed to be done on tumors, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
In 2013, I was diagnosed. So they should have done a genetic test on my tumor, because it's genetic and it's genomic testing. And those are 2 different types of tests. Genetic testing tests your blood from a blood test. It tests your blood, your tissue, your samples. Genomic testing is when you've been diagnosed and they're testing the tumor. I should have been tested in 2013 for that tumor, but I wasn't. But guess what? 2020 comes around. I'm diagnosed early stage triple positive breast cancer. They immediately do a genetic test. And the poor little genetic counselor who had to talk to me was just like, you have a rare genetic mutation. It's called RAD51C. It's not BRCA. It's not the sexy one that's connecting breast cancer to ovarian cancer. I got the old generic in the back, variants of no significance kind of gene mutation. I was like, that makes sense. You know, my ovarian cancer was rare. You know, even my breast cancer is rare because I'm actually a stage 1 HER2 positive, and those 2 rarely happen together. And so, of course, now I have this rare genetic mutation, but I have to go back now and tell my sisters and my mother to go get tested. And this is something that haunts me, because in 2013, had my tumor been tested, right, then I could have shared with them that possibly we have a RAD51C gene mutation. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of gnaws at me a little bit, but I also take comfort in the fact that between now and 2013, no one in my family has been diagnosed with ovarian or breast cancer. But again, that's the thing that sort of gnaws at you. When the counselor sat down with me, she was like, well, according to your test results and your mutation, you're more inclined to have ovarian and breast cancer. I was like, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, I've already, come on now.
Been there, done that, lady. Give me something.
Thanks for the results, though.
Tamika, I would like to
What a waste of time. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sharon.
That's okay. I would like to add something in reference to genetic testing. Although you may get tests at the beginning, you may not, but you definitely should ask for it because things change. Like, for example, I got tested in 2015 and I just got tested in 2019 as well. 2019 or 2020, maybe 2020 before we close down because things change. So you still go back and get retested as well. So
here's the thing, even if you don't necessarily get retested, what happens is, so in my case, when I did my genetic testing, it was not BRCA1, BRCA2, but there was something there, they couldn't call it something, like Kim said, it wasn't sexy. And so ideally what's happening is as researchers are still doing tests, they are finding similarities and that's how they will have a new type set. So even if you don't get it again, you can basically, so like for me, I get a notice from the people who did my genetic testing and they say, hey, this is what we're testing this week. We found this and we're seeing this number and this many African Americans. And I get an update every year and I've gotten it every year since my diagnoses. And they told me, they're like, we are studying what these extra genes are to figure out the effect that they may have on you down the line. And that's why they're always like, please make sure that your family members are getting genetic testing. If they are doing something or, go to their center and they can say, well, I need to get genetic testing because someone in my family had breast cancer and, did the testing. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, people don't like to get pricked. I know I don't. I can't stand it. But, it comes with the territory. So I think my answer for what I wish the doctor had told me is the effects that come afterwards. The chemo is done. Radiation is done. Surgery is done. You've rung that bell. You ran around the hospital. You celebrated. Yeah, I'm done. The stuff that comes afterwards, the tiredness, the chemo brain, which is real. Just the way you feel, like your body image. There's so many things that they miss from that and preparing you for kind of the step forward. So in the case for me and Sharon with triple negative, so in that case with us with triple negative, what we do is, basically when you're done, you're done. They're like, see ya, come back in 6 months and let's test you. Meanwhile, anything could be happening, whereas other cancers oftentimes get a maintenance drug and things could still be happening and you just not know. So it's scary. It's frightening. No one talks to you about what you should be doing in that moment. I kind of call it the dash. So no one tells you what you should be doing in the dash, how you should be preparing mentally, back to what she said about the PTSD, or even just, like the steps, like, you're going to want to sleep all day. Maybe to check your iron. And so for me, I get really tired and I am a nap queen. If you guys didn't know, I take a nap every day. If I don't get a nap, I am not a nice person. And so what I recognize is that a lot of me needing that nap comes from my iron levels as well. Oftentimes they're very low. They were low before cancer and they're really low now. So no one said, well, these are the things you need to do. We need to talk about. And, when I went in for my last visit with the oncologist in the PA, I said to them, why didn't y'all tell me when this was done and over with, I was going to feel like shit? And they're like, well, what do you mean? So they're asking me all these questions. So at this point, they're all, they reacted. What do you mean? Oh my God, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I feel like shit. I ain't saying I feel like the cancer's back. I feel like shit. I'm tired. I don't want to work out. I'm getting fat. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that's happening that had you prepared me, I feel like I could have navigated it a little better. And so any of you that are out there, I hope that when you go to your doctors, these are the questions and the things that you are talking to them about. And it's not even just about cancer. It's about anything. And so I had my yearly visit with my doctor, my primary. And I have a new doctor. She'd never seen me before. So I kind of was like, well, let me let her run this appointment. I'm known to go in a doctor's appointment and run it like I'm the doctor. So I'm like, what? This is my first time meeting her. She don't need to know I'm a patient advocate. I'm going to let her run this appointment. It's the worst appointment I ever had in my life. She glazed over everything. Now, I don't generally tell people my age, but y'all should know I'm over 40, which means I'm a little older. And, things are breaking down in my body, right? And so there are things that should be talked about and should be checked. Colonoscopy, she did not mention that. I asked her about it. Even like all the ovarian tests that they do, I asked her about it. So there's this blood test, and I wish I had it written down here. and I don't, and I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna share it back out. And so it's a blood test that apparently my brother-in-law had done. And in this test, it predicts things that could be happening, very similar to the genetic testing. And so I asked her about it. And first she kind of gave me this look like, how you know about that? Right. And she says, well, you know what? It's probably better that your oncologist does the test. And I said, but why? Because it's not just a cancer thing. That test could literally give you the blueprint to anything. And she says, well, because of what they're already doing. So there we go. The doctors like to pass the buck. So I was like, no, ma'am. Here's what we need to do. We need to schedule this test. And I can get you connected to my oncologist. Absolutely. I have her phone number right here on my phone. You want me to text her? What you want me to do? So at that point, she started realizing, wait, this girl knows a little bit more stuff. So then I kindly pulled out my phone where I had on my list of things. And so I said, well, can we talk about this? So that 15-minute appointment that I think she thought she was going to come in, check my heart and do ask me some questions and run out. We were in there for a good hour and 20 minutes. And I even have a follow-up for some other things that we need to check. And so that's how we have to be. And I realized that going to a doctor's appointment is a pain in the ass. I ain't going to lie to you. I hate it. And even before breast cancer, it was horrible. And I tell people all the time, we make time to take our kids to the doctors. We have got to make time to get ourselves there. And it's an interruption in our day. Doctors are rarely on time, so you wait in. And so it's so much going on, but you've got to make yourself that priority. And I feel like once you get in there, that is the time for you to pull out your notes, ask other people your age questions. If you're feeling pains, this is the time to really do all of that, because doctors are reactive. They are not proactive. You've got to be proactive. Hence the reason we became patient advocates. So let's talk about that, my patient advocates. Tell me, what put you on this journey? Let's go, Sharon. What started you?
All right. What started me is that the cost of this cancer, the cost is unbelievable. They have one drug. The nickname is the bankruptcy drug, because that costs $60,000. So, I feel that people should not have to go in a retirement funds or put your home up just to have chemo or to get treatment to live. So the first thing I wanted to do was make a difference by giving personal care items and household items. Your skin dry out, some of the side effects. And I remember when my skin was so dry that I literally was in tears. My husband ran down to the store. He had to go 3 times. And it's this little basket that I carried around it cost $50. He went to CVS and it's like $50. So you trying all this different lotion. So on top of that, you have all these co-payments and all this. And so that's one of the things what started me to basically advocate and give back. Now, on the research part and the clinical trial part, a lot of us are not asked to participate in that. And I was looking at Good Morning America and saw that Angelina Jolie, her doctor, Dr. Funk, was starting a clinical trial, but it was out in California. I'm in Virginia. So I figure I'm going to try to call and see how I can get into that. And I was able to do that. That was just one hurdle, because you have to qualify. In qualifying, I had to go to California every 90 days. Now I'm like, there's no money on no trees. But I remember what my grandma would always tell me: where there's a will, there's a way. So I mentioned it to one of my sons and his wife, and they worked with she worked at a local law firm, and she mentioned it, and they said, we can donate points. And they started a GoFundMe. And within 48 hours, we had everything I needed to go out there on 2 trips, because the clinical trial was going to transfer to New York, where I could drive. Now, that's a whole nother story, because that didn't happen. But I won't allow other people time to talk, but those are the type of things that started me on my journey in advocating. Not only do I speak up for a voice for the voiceless, I'm also in research as well. And just like all of us, sit on many boards. And, one of the biggest issue with us, when I say us, African Americans, as soon as we mention clinical trial, we started talking about Tuskegee, and a lot of scholars come from Tuskegee. So back then, they did not, I can assure you, none of us, or they didn't have people that look like us that sit on boards, review things, review grants. And that's not the case today. Today, we are making a huge difference. So, again, I want to allow other people time to talk, but those are some of the things that made me be a voice and speak out.
Wonderful. Thank you. And so I'm glad you brought up clinical trials. Anybody that's been following me for a while know that that is a sore spot for me because so many people have been going off on this COVID vaccine, not wanting to get it, and just a whole lot. And then you see all these questions where they're like, well, are you going to get the Johnson & Johnson one? Because, they lied to us about powder. And I'm like, yes, that's a totally different issue. But let's focus on what's here at hand. So we are going to have a show where we talk about clinical trials because that is extremely important to me, and we will never be able to get through that in a lot of time here. But Wenora, talk to me. What made you become a patient advocate?
Girl, let me tell you, my knucklehead kids. And don't get me wrong, because I love them. But when I got genetically tested, found out I was Lynch syndrome, and told them that they had a 50% chance of having cancers in their future, they didn't listen and want to get tested. And so it took me a couple of years to really understand and step back as a mother that maybe all I can do is lead by example. And so I talk about my journey constantly. If I'm featured in something, I'm sharing it with them because I wanted it to be a constant reminder that your health, you're in charge of. You only get one time. There's no do-over in this.
That's none.
So for me, it's about hoping that one day that light bulb moment will come on for them. And they're getting close, but not yet. And that's another problem for Black families.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, then the other thing we have to talk about is, things that happen historically in our families that we don't talk about. So for me, when I got the genetic testing, they're asking you all these questions. Well, who died in your family? And you're like naming people, how they died. I don't know, they died. I was at the funeral. I don't know. And I had to take a step back and realize, a lot of people died, but I don't know how they died because it's just not something that we really talked about. And I remember I called my aunt, my dad's sister, and she knows everything. Like, I don't even know how old she is, but she knows everybody's birthday. She knows when you got married. She knows your kids' birthdays. She knows stuff that's just like average people just don't know or probably just don't really care about. So I called her and was like, listen, I need to know how this person died, and she was like running it down to me. But I realized that when I called my dad, he was like, I don't know. And, and it's not that, they probably didn't tell him, but no one, we're not thinking about the importance of understanding for the next generation what actually happened in that time. And I recall, how, in our families, I don't know about your family, but in my family, these always keep obituaries in the Bible. And so I think that that's what that was about. That was kind of how they tracked what happened. But in your obituary, it don't say oftentimes how you died. It just says you died peacefully in your sleep or whatever. Like, you're not getting the reason why. And that goes back to, that's a part of that. And so that's why I think it's great that, your advocacy journey really involved and started with your family. So that's perfect. Kim, I know you got a story for us. Go ahead, tell us.
I do. I do. But, I also like to make sure that people hear the story. They're sometimes shocked by it. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to advocate for the woman who walks into that office and hears you have cancer. Right? That's at the end of the day, that's the reason why I do what I do. In my relationship with my ex-oncologist, just a good example, with a tear-stained face, I said to her, probably in the first or second visit prior to infusion, I don't understand how this is happening to me. I just don't understand. I don't understand how I got ovarian cancer. She looked up from her computer and she said, I guess you're just unlucky. It gets better.
Oh my God.
There was never a good visit. I kept pushing for answers, asking questions, and getting a defensive pushback that at some point just started to get offensive. I found myself asking for supportive services. I ended up in counseling, but that's the best thing for you. When you get this diagnosis, don't think you can handle it on your own. Don't think that the type of support that you can get from a husband or from family or from children is going to be enough to allow you to sleep at night and not worry about whether or not you're dying the next day. You need some place to put those feelings and to get them in their proper perspective. And I will never forget her. God bless her heart. Her name was Jasmine. She was a PhD fellow in psychology and particularly in cancer psychology. And she said, you know, Kimberly, what you're just going to have to do is you're going to have to go into one of those visits and you're just going to have to tell her that she is upsetting you. You have to tell her. And I was like, okay. So I went into this one visit and I was like, listen, you and I are just not communicating well. I have been asking you questions that you refuse to answer. Every time I leave here, I'm upset. And I'm just wondering if we can do better in terms of communicating.
That's great.
Girl, she turned around like, listen, Linda. She said, and I'm quoting her, y'all, because she knows she said it. She said, listen, Kimberly, I met you on the table. You weren't my patient. I'm doing all that I can do to keep you alive. And she swerved her little hips back around at that computer screen like, I just told you. So you sitting there like going, well, that didn't work.
I am floored.
Yeah. I mean, I have a dozen stories like that with her.
Much like I've been telling people this week behind the stories with Sharon Osbourne and Meghan Markle, I'm not that grown and I might have hit her ass. And been like, now what?
Listen, I have a quick story I can tell. Well, when I first got diagnosed and she said, this is the treatment plan you're going to be on. And I had an opportunity to go back and research it. I said to her, listen, I've been on the internet. I've looked at this treatment. I think it's too harsh. I think it's too aggressive. And I, would prefer to know my other treatment options. Again, she looked at me and she was like, Beth is better for you. Do you want to live? Yeah, I got jaw droppers like that. And so how do you process that information? How do you come through a treatment like that? How do you come through a journey and an experience like that? On the other end, you're either going to be very bitter or you're going to get better. Mm-hmm. And so in my mind, my advocacy is simply this, to ensure that every woman, regardless of her skin color, but particularly for Black women, that when you get that diagnosis, that you have something outside of that oncologist, right? If you don't get lucky and have the greatest oncologist in the world, you got the one I had that sucked, right? Then you have someplace else to go for information.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I do advocacy.
Wonderful. I love that answer. So that brings us to, because you guys know I'm very mindful of your time. And so we are already 45 minutes in. So Nettie, I want to answer your question. So I see that your question is, how do you become an advocate? That would probably take us about, I don't know how long, probably a long time, because I feel like we all came to it different ways. But we are happy to, I guess, walk you through some of it, if that makes sense. So
you can reach out.
Go ahead, Sharon. Go ahead, you can tell her.
Or she can reach out to any of us or to all of us after, and we can take her through.
Absolutely. And what you can also do is, if you are partnered or you participate, volunteer, or whatever with any organization, it does not have to be a cancer organization, because patient advocates are across the board. They for whatever. You can reach out to other organizations and they can walk you through what their process is. We are going to have another show, because we're not done, guys. This is like, we got a lot to tell y'all, right? Where we talk about the process of becoming an advocate, really doing it and doing it effectively. But in the interim, if you want to reach out to us, you absolutely can do that. You can drop me a line. If you hit my DM, I will make certain that the message is circulated. I can get you a group of answers. There's no way we'll be able to answer that in the 15 minutes that I know we have left. But before, as we are approaching our end, I want to thank all of you for coming in and commenting and joining in on this conversation. And those of you who are watching the replay, please feel free to post any questions that you guys have, because I will make sure that we get answers for you as well. But what I wanted to let you guys know is that what we have formed as a result of all of our stories and everything that has happened is the Black Women's Collaborative. And so we're going to come to you guys probably at the minimum once a month. But you know, guys, you guys know how I do. I think this is something that we can talk about all the time. So you might hear from us a little bit more. But we're going to come before you and we're going to have these type of dialogues, because we know that our stories, while to us they may seem unique, there are so many other women experiencing the things that we experience, and we're not talking about it enough. So our goal is to talk about it and take action. So you guys know I am action oriented. I don't like a whole lot of lip service. So we want to make certain that you have actionable steps that you can do and take, no matter where you are in your journey, be it just to be regular health. Like, it does not have to be with going to an oncologist. It could be going to your primary care, because some of these are questions and things that your doctor needs to know, because ideally it should be a partnership with you and your with your medical team. So that's all I have to say. Do you guys want to give them anything else? Oh, Sharon or Kimberly or Menorah, do you want to talk about what we're doing on Saturday?
Oh, Saturday? No, that would be Sharon.
That would be Sharon.
Okay.
Well, then we know who's going to give us that update. Go, Sharon.
All right. On Saturday, we will be presenting to Massey Cancer Center. That is here in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm sure everybody follow, how would you call it? Dr. Jill Biden.
Dr. Jill Biden, yes.
Yes, visit Massey Cancer Center. And we are presenting to Encore. Encore basically is what they do is form a team, and we are trying to bring clinical trials in underserved population. So all four of us will be lending our voice, and we actually would be speaking with oncologists and psychologists and nurses and physicians and radiologists. And we will be talking about our experience as an advocate, hoping to partner so we can they can learn from us, because it's a lot of things in reference to that we do not discuss. I didn't really discuss mental health with none of my physicians, but it came out. I talk about the incident. So that's some of the things we're going to discuss, policies, a whole lot of things. And that's this coming Saturday, Massey Cancer Center, Richmond, Virginia. If you are any psychologies, oncologies, whoever, and would like to take advantage of that, please register for that. That is a free event.
Wonderful. So yes, so hopefully you guys heard that. We are basically, the four of us are going to get back together. We're going to be on a panel, and we are going to answer questions for them, really to help them get a better understanding from the Black patient perspective. Wenora, go ahead. What did you have to say?
You know, I was itching. I was moving my chair, and I just kept hearing your voice in my head. Be still. Be still. Be still. Don't move that chair. But I just want to say out there to those who are listening, you have a voice. And I'm going to use one of my favorite quotes. Be the hero of your story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let nobody tell it but you.
Right.
I love it. That is great.
One of the physicians wrote in my record, she's back again, asking many questions. I'm not offended. When I saw that, great. So if it's something you don't understand, make sure they break it down to you where you understand it. So if you have to schedule appointment, just ask questions. Now you can't say I'm just scheduling an appointment to ask questions. I don't care, make up something. My boob's bleeding. Get in there and ask the questions.
Don't say that if they're not bleeding, but it's okay that you kind of give a little fib, but don't say your boobs is bleeding. Let's don't call some things into existence.
Well, say, Kim, what can we say? Say something.
No, I'm just thinking we want to just make sure that when we talk about patient advocacy, that it includes the caregiver.
Yeah.
The caregiver is a patient advocate. You have a voice, you have a story. It needs to be heard, right? Because it's hard to be a co-survivor, as they say, right? It's hard. And who listens to you when you listen to the patient, when you take care of the patient all the time? Who listens to how you feel and your worries and your concerns? And so there's a family, there's a tribe out there for you in patient advocacy. And so it's just remembering that it's both patients, it's caregivers, patient advocates that can move through different levels of advocacy. There are lanes for you to be in. You can be in awareness advocacy where you just talk about your story. You can be in policy advocacy where you can actually go to your state and federal lawmakers and influence policy around your particular cancer and its funding levels for research. Or you can be a research advocate where you really are working with scientists. And we're doing reviews for research and for grants. So it's a lot of different places for you to land, and you don't have to stay in one lane, and one lane is not better than the other. It's just that it's important that we share our story. And it's even more important that all of our voices, particularly Black women's voices, are heard. And that's the reason why the Black Women's Cancer Collaborative has been formed.
Absolutely. So with that, we have some comments where everyone is thanking us. We're getting some people where they're saying very hard. Yes. So Cy Bryant commented and said very hard because he is my co-survivor. And for those of you who don't know, he wrote a book. If you haven't read it, totally buy it and support my husband. But yes, we'll talk about that another time. But yes, so thank you everybody for joining. And once again, if you are watching the replay, feel free to comment. We will get answers for you. You can also reach out to any of us. We are all on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're all over. If you need us, you can find us. We are here. Let us know. And coming soon is the website for the Black Women's Cancer Collaborative, where you'll be able to get even more information. So with that, I say farewell, and I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.